Everyone knows inflation is bad. Prices rise, money loses value, and our paychecks don't stretch as far. But what if inflation isn't bad for everyone? What if it's actually good for a small, powerful group of people and designed that way? It sounds like a conspiracy theory until you follow the money. Because behind every wave of inflation is a quiet transfer of wealth, from the average person trying to save to those who already own assets, from wage earners to capital holders, from the many to the few. This is the untold truth about inflation, not as a mistake in the economy, but as a mechanism that has made the rich richer for over a century. To understand how we have it to go back long before dollars, credit cards, or stock markets. For centuries, the value of money was tied to something real, gold and silver. If a government printed more currency than it had metal to back it, people would lose trust. Inflation would follow. That system kept spending and debt in check until war changed everything. In the early 20th century, as countries fought World War I, they needed massive funding. Gold wasn't enough, so governments printed money. Inflation skyrocketed, currencies collapsed, and entire middle classes lost their life savings. The lesson was simple. Inflation destroys savers, but it protects those who own real things: land, property, commodities. The rich didn't lose. They adapted. After World War II, the world tried to fix the chaos. The Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944 tied global currencies to the US dollar, which itself was backed by gold. It was a system designed for stability. Until America broke its own rules. By the late 1960s, the US was spending far more than it had. On wars abroad and welfare at home, other countries started demanding gold in exchange for their dollars. But the US didn't have enough. So, in 1971, President Richard Nixon did something unprecedented. He ended the gold standard. Overnight, money was no longer backed by anything tangible. It became fiat currency, created by decree, by trust alone. From that moment, the door to infinite inflation opened. You see, inflation isn't just about rising prices. It's about where new money goes first. When central banks create money, it doesn't fall equally into everyone's hands. It flows through banks, corporations, and financial markets. First, a phenomenon known as the Cantillon effect. Those who receive the new money first, the wealthy, investors, and institutions, can use it before prices rise. They buy assets, real estate, stocks, businesses then. When that new money spreads through the economy and prices inflate, the value of their assets goes up, while ordinary people face higher costs. So while you're paying more for groceries, someone else's portfolio is growing. Inflation doesn't just erode your savings, it concentrates wealth. You can see this pattern every time the economy crashes. Take 2008. The global financial system almost collapsed. To save it, central banks printed trillions in stimulus money. But that money didn't flow to workers. It went into the financial system, into stocks, real estate, and corporate bailouts. The result? The rich recovered faster than ever. Asset prices soared while wages stagnated. By 2015, the top 10% of Americans owned nearly 80% of all stocks. Then came 2020. The pandemic hit, and once again, governments printed trillions. For a brief moment, some of that money reached regular people in the form of checks, but soon after, prices began to rise. Food, gas, housing. Everything got more expensive. At the same time, billionaire wealth in America surged by more than $2 trillion in under 2 years. Inflation struck, but not everyone felt it the same way. The same system that saved the economy quietly transferred more wealth upward. Again, so why does inflation do this? Because it rewards those who own and punishes those who earn. If you own assets, houses, stocks, land, inflation increases their value. If you have debt, inflation actually helps you, because you repay it with money that's worth less. But if you rely on a paycheck, inflation eats away at your buying power. Your money loses value every single day, and since wages rarely rise as fast as prices, you slowly fall behind. It's It's a silent tax, one you can't see or vote against. And the most ironic part, governments need inflation. With national debts in the tens of trillions, inflation quietly erodes those debts over time. It's politically safer to make money worth less than to raise taxes. That's why central banks publicly target 2% inflation. It sounds small, even healthy, but over a generation, it cuts the value of your money nearly in half. History shows this isn't new. The Roman Empire used inflation to not with printed money, but by slowly reducing the silver content in its coins, each emperor shaved a little more off, until coins were mostly worthless. Prices soared, trade collapsed, and the empire's economy eventually fell apart. In 1920s Germany, inflation turned life savings into nothing. Workers were paid twice a day because money lost value by the hour. It destroyed the middle class and paved the way for extremism. And yet, here we are again, repeating the same pattern in digital form. Our system depends on debt, which depends on inflation, the people closest to the source of new money. Governments, banks, corporations get richer first. Everyone else gets the bill. So what can you do about it? First, understand the game. Inflation is not a bug in the system. It is the system. It transfers wealth from those holding money to those holding assets. Second, own something real. Historically, people who hold tangible assets, property, commodities, or productive businesses survive inflation better than those who save in cash. Third, recognize cycles. Every period of major inflation is followed by a correction, often painful, but necessary. Those who see the cycle coming can prepare instead of panic. And finally, don't wait for governments to fix it. Their survival depends on keeping the system running exactly as it is. The truth about inflation is uncomfortable because it exposes how modern economics really works. It's not about keeping prices stable or economies fair. It's about maintaining a hierarchy built on who gets the new money first. So the next time you see prices rising, remember, someone is benefiting from that inflation, and it's probably not you. Inflation doesn't just measure how much things cost. It measures who wins and who pays for it. If this video opened your eyes to the deeper story behind inflation, hit subscribe and share it with someone who still thinks rising prices are just part of the economy. The more people understand how money really works, the harder it becomes for those in power to keep the system hidden. Because in the end, inflation isn't just an economic phenomenon. The quiet engine of inequality that has been running the world for over a century.